I have lived in Orlando, Florida for over 10 years now, and there's definitely a ton of pros of living in the Orlando, Florida area, but in this video, I actually want to give you guys 10 reasons that you might not want to live here. All of these 10 reasons are going to be based on my experience, guys. So some people might have differing opinions on some of these things. You might even have differing opinions, but that's okay. I just want to give you my experience of some of the issues that I have seen while living in Orlando, Florida. The first reason that you might not want to move to the Orlando, Florida area is actually the reason that most people are coming to this area, and that's the tourism. There's tens of millions of people that visit the Orlando, Florida area every single year for Disney, Universal, and things like that. So what that does is it can make things pretty busy. The problem with tourists is that they come into Orlando and they don't really know where to go, and I get that. I've been a tourist in a city that I was unfamiliar with. I understand it's stressful, but it is definitely one of the negatives of living here in Orlando, Florida. The second reason you might not want to move to Orlando, Florida actually is because recently Orlando was rated one of, if not the least walkable cities in the United States. You're not really gonna walk anywhere depending on where you live. There are very few cases where you actually have where you can walk from like your house over to the nearest Publix or Walmart or downtown area. That almost doesn't exist. Orlando is a very big metropolitan area. We have a ton of suburbs, ton of different lifestyles, and it's just not very walkable. It's very spread out. It's about a 30 to 45 minute drive, no matter where you're going, it seems. And that's just one of the many things we have to deal with living here. And that kind of plays into number 3, which is the traffic. Traffic can get, just like any major city, traffic can get really bad around the 8:30 to 9 when people are driving to work, and 4:30 to 5 when people are leaving work. One of the problems in the Central Florida area as a whole is they just did not build roads well. Like, the road infrastructure has a long way to go. They're improving, but there's definitely a long way to go there. So the traffic is definitely a reason you may not want to live here. Some areas are worse than others, some areas are better than others. So it just depends on which suburb you're moving to, how close you are to downtown, how close you are to Disney, Universal, things like that. Of course, depending on where you live, it can change, but that's generally a thing here is have a podcast ready or something you're gonna listen to because you're gonna be driving for a while. The weather is definitely a pro living here, especially during the cooler months, fall, winter, spring, things of that nature. But during the summer, it gets extremely hot and also very humid. And so that's a reason you may not want to live here, is the humidity and the heat. During the summer, it can get so hot and the humidity is almost like you're walking, you can tell you're in a swamp, right? You're walking out, it's blazing hot, you're sweating as soon as you get outside because of how humid it is. And the humidity does actually play a role during the colder months as well, because when we do have a cold day here, and cold for us is like in the 50s, it's much colder than 50 degrees anywhere else because of the humidity. The humidity sinks into your clothing. So even if you wear layers, you're still feeling that cold. It's just a different type of temperature when the humidity is involved. It's definitely a reason some people might not want to move here. The 5th reason you might not want to move to Orlando, Florida is because Orlando, Florida is actually getting more and more crowded, especially the more popular suburbs. Lake Nona, Winter Garden, Claremont, all of these areas that have kind of been nothing for a long time are now being moved into. A lot of people discovered them, especially Winter Garden, Horizon West. It's just in prime location and it's all getting built out. It's a hot area to move into, and what that has caused is a buildup in crowds in certain places, more traffic in certain areas, and it's just changing the overall flow of the Central Florida area. The 6th reason you might not want to move to the Orlando, Florida metropolitan area is because of the increasing home prices. Orlando used to be a place where you could come in and get a fantastic property for a really low dollar, and it's just not that anymore. If you're moving to the Orlando, Florida area, you may be able to find some options in the 300s, very few in the 200s, but you're really looking at spending a minimum of $400,000 plus if you're looking for a decent single family home. That's just where prices have gone, and depending on what suburb you're actually looking at, if you're looking further away from downtown, you're gonna be able to find those better prices, especially once you get down into Polk County, which isn't technically Orlando, but kind of is, it's close enough. You're gonna be able to find some great prices in terms of like under 400,000 out there, but anywhere like Winter Garden, Windermere, Dr. Phillips, Ocoee, Gotha, these Eric Kissimmee even too is starting to get up there in price. 400,000 is almost the minimum, and some areas it's even higher, like Winter Garden, Horizon West area, that it's so hot there right now. It just depends on what suburb you're looking in, but that's definitely a reason some people may not want to move here. If you still want to live in Florida though, and you just can't afford Orlando, you may want to look into moving to Ocala, Florida. It's an up-and-coming city. It's a little quiet, a lot quieter than Orlando, but up-and-coming. They have pretty much everything you need, and it has some really affordable options. The 7th reason you might not want to move to Orlando, Florida, and this kind of applies across the board in Florida, is the increasing home insurance costs. It depends, you know, with the hurricane issues that we do have here. Hurricanes aren't horrible. They're not like you would receive them in Miami or some of the coastal cities, but we do still get hit by hurricanes, usually lessened in terms of intensity, but they still come our way. And just insurance companies are not really favoring Florida right now. It's just, for them, they've increased rates and everything like that. So that's definitely a reason that it can actually push people out of buying here, is just that increased home insurance cost. The 8th reason that you might not want to move to Orlando, Florida, is because there's a lot of HOA communities, homeowners association communities. Personally, there's good and bad ones, in my opinion. There's some that they don't hold their power over you. They just keep the neighborhood, you know, they make sure it looks nice, make sure people are following the rules, all of that good stuff. There are some that are mini dictatorships though. I have friends who are, they get their HOA calls them out for the most annoying and ridiculous things, or they're just making dumb decisions, raising the monthly HOA cost for no reason. But we have a lot of, it's kind of hard to avoid HOAs in the Orlando, Florida area. Pretty much every community is going to have an HOA. There's a select few that don't. But again, when a community doesn't have an HOA, you're inviting a lot of other things into that community that you may not enjoy. So it really just depends. It's good to kind of connect with the HOAs if you're interested in a community. But some are better than others, some are more expensive than others and offer more. It just depends on what you're looking for, but it might be a reason that you don't move here is because of all of the HOA communities. The 9th reason that you might not want to move to the Orlando, Florida area doesn't apply to all parts of Orlando. It only applies to the areas in closer proximity to some of the parks, like Disney, Universal, especially down in Kissimmee and Davenport. What you're gonna run into a lot is an oversaturated amount of short-term rentals. And what that does is kind of deteriorate the quality of living in certain communities. Like, let's say if you're a family, you want to raise your kids in a community with other families and kids, and you're surrounded on all sides by Airbnb. So all you're going to have all the time is people rolling in, probably partying at night, all of these things. It's kind of disruptive, and it's unfortunate that a ton of communities in the Orlando, Florida area, mainly down, not really in Orange County, but like in Osceola County, have kind of been, and Polk County, have kind of been overtaken the closer they are to the parks by these investors and short-term rentals. And there are some communities that are built specifically for that, but there are some communities that they were once mainly families that are now pretty much only Airbnbs, and you can just tell, you know, people that are coming in just for a couple days aren't going to care for a community like, you know, actual residents would, unfortunately. And so that's just a reason you may not want to move here. There are ways to avoid that, especially if you're in Orange County. It's actually, you're not allowed to Airbnb in Orange County unless 50% of your residence is lived in by you, which just tends to people taking care of the properties a little bit better. So there are ways to avoid this problem. This is mainly just if you're looking closer to the parks, like in Kissimmee, Davenport area. The 10th reason that you might not want to move to Orlando, Florida is because of the cookie cutter homes. This isn't really referring to some of the older homes that were built in certain areas, but a lot of these areas that are seeing a ton of growth, like Kissimmee, Davenport, which is technically not Orlando, it's Polk County, but we consider it Orlando. Kissimmee, Davenport, Winter Garden, Horizon West, Claremont, Lake Nona, out in pretty much everywhere that's experiencing these massive massive amount of development and building, there's a lot of cookie cutter homes, and some people are fine with them. I'm actually okay with it, but I do know a lot of people do like a little bit of character in your home. If you're looking for character in your home, there's some builders that are going out there and actually adding a little bit of sparkle and shine to places, but you're gonna probably wanna find something that's a little bit older, a lot older, or custom build a home, depending on your budget. Some people that may be more feasible than others, but if you're looking for, a totally unique home, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult to find just because Orlando, Florida is pretty saturated with that cookie cutter style. Each neighborhood, depending on the year that neighborhood was built and the builder that built it. That's 10 reasons why you might not want to move to Orlando, Florida. But if you're not scared and you are thinking about moving to Orlando, Florida, my name is Andrew Sweet. My team and I would love to help you make your move to Orlando, Florida go as smoothly as possible. So if you're interested in moving to Orlando, Florida, or any of the surrounding suburbs, cities, whatever you're looking for, make sure to text the word home to the number 407-476-6371 or email me at liveinorlandofl@gmail.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, press that notification bell, and share this video with a friend. And stay just for a couple more minutes because I have some really good news that I want to share with you, and I don't want you to miss it. If this is your first time to my channel, at the end of all of these real estate videos, I just like to give a little bit of good news in the form of talking about Jesus or reading directly out of Scripture. And today I'm going to be reading out of my ESV Bible, and we're going to be reading Matthew chapter 16, part of verse 24 through verses 26. So just listen. If you have any questions about this, let me know. And just really try to hear these words that Jesus spoke. Then Jesus told his disciples, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul?" Guys, this is basically just Jesus saying the one thing that matters is relationship with Jesus and glorifying God. What will it gain? What does it say here? What will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? So that's referring to people who, they've got it made here on earth, their wealth and health, and they seem to have every good blessing from God, but they don't know Jesus Christ. They don't have a relationship with him. So what does that gain them? They have a great 70, 80 years here on earth, but what is eternity? And what is 70 years compared to eternity? It's nothing. It's wind. Seek Jesus. Seek him with your full heart. Gaining him, gaining Jesus, makes everything else you could gain look like loss. And that's just truth, because you gain relationship with the God of the universe. And you gain access to eternity with him. And he's good and trustworthy. He will never fail you or lie to you. And it's a beautiful thing. So thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, share this message with a friend. I'll see you in the next one.